Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me, and tonight we're going to be playing Agents of S.M.E.R.S.H. This is the second edition of the game that was produced in 2014 by 8th Summit Games. Although I was not a Kickstarter backer of this, I was able to acquire the Kickstarter promos, and we're going to be using some of those in this playthrough. Primarily the secret mission cards and the travel die. We begin the setup by placing the map in the center of the table and the henchman and Dr. Lobo tracks near the edge of the board. Now I've decided to play a two-player game, and so I've randomly selected two agents. First is Agent L39, Kelly Dagger. Her code name is Heartbreak. She's going to begin the game with 2 UN transport tokens, and because of the two-player setup, an additional UN transport token, along with a top secret card, Rudiger. Her secret missions are located in the Indian Ocean and in Japan, and I've selected weapons use and electronics as her advanced abilities. She also begins with a modified car that allows her to move up to 3 spaces each turn. She's going to begin the game in New York. Next agent is XX5 Rocco Jurgen, codename Stealthfire. His secret missions are located in New Orleans and Kazan. He'll begin with 2 UN transport tokens, and I've selected the advanced abilities Disguise and Adventuring for him. He's going to begin the game in Siberia. As a part of the two-player setup, we're going to remove the -1 and injury cards from the villain deck. There's 4 cards there, 2 -1 cards and 2 injury cards. So those won't be used, and those are placed back in the box. Also, as a part of the two-player setup, we're instructed that one of the henchmen is going to begin the game at level 2, and I've randomly determined that that's going to be Fedor Maximov. We begin the game with 2 intel markers on the board. One is in Berlin, and the other is in Athens. In order to win the game, we have 2 methods of accomplishing that. First one is to eliminate all 4 of the henchmen. It's very difficult to do so, but it is possible. The other method is to increase our location intelligence to 4, and then have the proper intel tokens in the intel pool based upon the status of Dr. Lobo. Kelly Dagger is going to be our lead-off agent, and I've placed the poker chip next to her to mark that. That completes the setup, and we're ready to begin. And we'll begin Kelly Dagger's turn with the movement phase. Now the movement phase is we're going to be using the special movement die that came in the Kickstarter promos. And whether we're going to use air travel or not, the die is rolled before we decide which mode of travel we're going to use and apply the effects of that, and then we can decide how she'll move after that. Now she does have the modified car, which allows her to move 3 spaces each turn, but the die still has to be rolled to see if there's any special condition that it occurs, as in the closing of an airport. And here's her roll. And she rolls a 2. And that symbol indicates that an airport at her location going to close, so the airport in New York will be closed, and we'll mark it accordingly. And the closing of that airport was unfortunate. I was going to have her probably fly into Europe and address some of those intel tokens that are there, but the airport is closed, so we have 3 movement points, and I think we'll have her move to Los Angeles. So Callie is going to make her way through Chicago and Las Vegas and into Los Angeles using her modified car, which allows her 3 spaces of movement each turn. And she arrives in Los Angeles, and then we're going to move to our encounter phase. We begin by drawing a North American encounter card, and that's revealed to be under surveillance. Its number is 06, and we're going to have a response group of A. I'll bring up response group A, and those are listed as escape, confront, be reckless, wait, challenge, be careful, or be spontaneous. So we'll try to pick a response based upon Callie's abilities and see if we can come up with something that will work. I think we're going to choose number 4, and that's wait. And then we draw a fate card, and in this case we are in a space with no intel. So our encounter is going to be 06.4.2. The encounter reads, you receive a telegram from the UN director that reads, SMERSH agent spotted following you. Stop. Be careful. Stop. You decide to sit in a bar and wait. Watching foretells. We have to test deception +1 or spycraft +2, requiring 2 successes. We can pass with seduction. Well, Callie has a deception of 1, so we're going to use deception. That will give us the normal gray die, and we'll be able to draw 2 extra dice, 1 for the deception test of +1 and 1 for her inherent deception ability. So we'll be drawing 2 extra dice out of the bag. First is a green die. Now we are not required to have to take any extra draws. If we feel that the risk of injury is too great, we're not required to take all of the dice, and we can roll as many as we want to up to that amount. But I'm going to draw an additional die, giving us our total amount. And the last die is the brown die. So we're going to roll these, and we're looking for 1 success, and we're hoping to find that pistol symbol. Failures are that Illuminati eye symbol, and then occasionally there can be injuries that will occur as well. Okay, we're going to roll these and see what the result is. And unfortunately we have 2 failures and an injury. So we are able to expend resolve to re-roll a single die. So we could attempt to re-roll that injury die, and I think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to spend 1 of Callie's resolve points, moving her from 5 down to 4, and then we're going to re-roll that injury. And unfortunately we have the same result. So we have failed that encounter, and Callie is going to take an injury. Now she has only a capacity of 3, so she's already at a third of her injury capacity. And now we have to read the fail condition. It says you identify the spy, but you get no information after questioning them. You strike a mutual interest, however, in your love of guns, and spend hours in conversation with your guard down. Love interest. So Callie is going to gain the status card love interest. While away on a mission, your thoughts never stray too far from the one you love. Sometimes you write poetry. You must first have a successful encounter to pick up the intel token at any location on the map. You may discard this card as a reward for completing a secret mission. Okay. And then we're required to draw a villain advancement card. It says the USS Sylvania disappears without a trace. That's going to advance Dr. Lobo 2 spaces on the track. And the Dr. Lobo marker will move from the start space to the number 2 space. And that is going to require us now to have 2 weapons intel markers in order to win the game. And now we move on to the villain phase, and we have to draw a villain card and resolve the end of turn event. And the card reads, AP Press front page article reads, are these the end times? Remove intel from North America and add intel to Macau. Airport close current city. Well, that's going to close the airport in Los Angeles, which is where Cali is currently occupying. There are no intel in North America, and we will be placing a intel in Macau, the Far East. And that was not a good opening turn for Kelly Dager, so we will end her turn, and we're going to begin with our next agent, Rocco Jurgen. He's in Siberia. Begin Jurgen's turn by rolling the movement die. His roll is a 2 with an airport closure. Well, there's no airport in Siberia, so we won't have to worry about that. And Jurgen has 2 movement points. Jurgen is going to move from Siberia to Yekaterinburg, where he's going to board the Trans-Siberian Railroad and take that to Moscow. And now, as he's in Moscow, we're going to go to our encounter phase. He's going to start with drawing an encounter card. Moscow is considered to be part of Asia, so we'll be drawing from the Asia Encounters deck. Card is revealed to be breaking and entering as a designation of O2 and a response group of C. I'll bring response group C up on the screen, and that gives us 7 options: observe, quick action, test your limits with determination, get assistance, let's have some fun, and at all costs. And I think based on Rocco's capabilities, I think we will go with quick action number 2. And we draw a fate card, and as we have no intel, the number is 4. So we'll be reading the encounter 2.2.4. And the encounter reads, the door is locked. You hear footsteps treading up the stairway. If you don't get inside the room now, you may not have another chance. Test Spycraft -1. Pass with lockpicking or speed. Unfortunately, Rocco has neither of those special abilities, so he has no option other than to use his Spycraft -1. His Spycraft is 1, so that will only give us 1 die to roll, and that'll be the gray die. Now, the gray die only gives us a 1 in 6 chance of success, so I think what we'll do is Rocco is going to use one of his resolve, moving himself from 3 down to 2. And it says he may spend 1 resolve to add +2 to a single test. So that will give us now a +2, and we're going to draw 2 extra dice. And once again, we pulled the green die, and I think we'll pull an additional one. And once again, that's the brown die. So we were going to roll those 3 dice and see if we can get a success. And we did manage the success, but Rocco took an injury in the process. So we're going to mark him accordingly on his card. He has a injury rating of 4, so he'll be able to take 3 more before he has a problem. And the pass condition reads, you slip through the floor just in time and retrieve documents with micro-implanted schematics. 1 intel. And so we earn our first intel token. We don't know what it is. There might be some game mechanics that will allow us to flip those at some point, but for right now, we have 1 intel. And now we draw a villain card, and we read the end of turn event. And it says, SMERSH activates earthquake machine in Beijing, causing massive damage. Add 1 intel to Regina. Airport close Beijing. Okay. And we place an intel in Regina. That is the 4th intel on the board. We have a maximum of 5 intel tokens before we would have an intel overflow. When we place the 6th, that would cause the overflow, and then all of the tokens would be removed from the board. So we don't want that to happen. And the airport in Beijing is closed, and that completes the round. And now it's Callie Dager's turn. She's currently in Los Angeles with a closed airport. We're going to roll movement die. Roll is a 2, and that would have closed the Los Angeles airport had it not been closed already. All right. Well, we want to get rid of that love interest card that Callie has. So in order to do that, we're going to have to complete one of our secret missions. So I think we're going to try to head to Japan. So Callie is going to make the movement to Pacific Ocean, and when you enter an ocean, you have to stop movement. So she's moved to the Pacific Ocean, and we're going to conduct her encounter phase. Ocean encounters work slightly differently. There is an ocean encounters table. We're going to roll a d6, and that will tell us the encounter number and the response group that we'll need to use. Roll is a 4, and that's espionage on the high seas. Number 49, the response group will be Group F. I'll bring Group F up on the screen, and that's our responses are negotiate, sneak attack, reason with, act unconcerned, lie, and be honest. I think Callie is going to choose number 2, sneak attack. Now we draw a fate card, and we're going to be using the blue ocean symbol, and that's 3. So our encounter will be 49.2.3. And the encounter reads, I'm Avery, and this is Finley. We've lost our parents. Cute kids. You may be an action hero, but you've no idea how to deal with 2 lost girls. Still, you've saved the world a few times, so this should be a piece of cake. One of them starts crying. The other says, the security men yelled at us. We just want our parents. My sister is really tired and needs a nap. You take them back to your cabin and lay Finley down for sleep. Then head off with Avery to find their parents. Realizing that you've left your wallet behind, you walk back to your cabin despite Avery's protestations. When you enter, Finley is going through your things. Avery pulls a gun and shoots you in the foot. Good grief. Test persuasion -1 or deception +1 with 2 successes required. Pass with disguise. Well, Callie is going to use the persuasion. Her persuasion is 2, so she's going to be able to use the gray die and be able to draw 1 additional die. And once again, she draws the green die, so we're going to roll those and see if we can get a success. For a change, that worked out quite well. Callie gets a success, and she's able to heal the wound that she had taken from the previous encounter. Past condition reads, it seems that Dr. Lobo is starting his agents young. You act really scared, and they relax their guard just enough for you to knock away their guns and tie them up. You girls deserve a good spanking, you tell them. Up any skill and 1 injury. Well, Callie just healed an injury, and now she's going to gain a new one. But she's able to up 1 of her skills. And I think she's going to raise her spycraft, so that'll bring that up from 0 up to 1. Then we move on to our end of turn event. It says bomb detonates inside White House, killing First Lady. Remove intel from North America and add intel in Siloon. Well, there is 1 intel in North America, and that's in Regina, so that is going to be removed. And a new intel is placed in Siloon. It still keeps the total number of intel markers on the board at 4, so we have no intel overflow. We'll move on to Rocco Jurgen. He's currently in Moscow, and he'll be rolling the movement die. His roll is a 2, and that's sufficient to reach either intel in Berlin or in Athens. Jurgen will use the 2 movement points, and he's going to move to Berlin. And now, since that Rocco has moved into a location with an intel token. We have to decide what to do with the token. Our choices are to leave it and have a no intel encounter there. Generally, encounters with intel will be slightly harder. We have the other option is to move the intel token face down into the intel pool, which would represent the UN's accumulating knowledge about Dr. Lobo's hideout. Or we can exchange the yellow token for a green location token, and that would allow us to eventually track down one of Dr. Lobo's henchmen. But I think at this point we're going to try to build up some intel tokens in the pool. So we're going to transfer that token to the intel pool. And now we go to our encounter phase, and we're going to be going to a European encounter, and that will be with intel. And the card reads, break the code, number 27, and the response group will be C. I'll bring response group C up on the screen, and we have choices of observe, quick action, test your limits with determination, get assistance, let's have some fun, and at all costs. And I think Rocco is going to choose with determination, number 4. Now we draw a fate card, and this is going to be with intel, so it'll be 3. So our code will be 27.4.3. And the encounter reads, move to Siberia. The Soviets have upgraded their communications equipment, and the UN can no longer break their codes. You are sent into a remote listening station in Siberia to steal a piece of the new equipment. You manage to obtain the key circuit board, but are discovered and flee. Now you are running through the snow. A pack of dogs close on your heels. Test athletics, pass with adventuring or piloting. And it just so happens that Rocco has the adventuring ability, so we've automatically passed the test. And the encounter reads, your feet are near frostbite. Climb a tree and wait. The hunters have let the dogs run ahead, so you devise a crazy plan. When the dogs arrive barking at your tree, you drop with a roar, landing on 2 dogs and instantly knocking them out. You take down the 3rd dog with your bare hands. After warming your hands and feet in the bodies of the dogs, you take off again. Without the dogs, the hunters soon lose your trail. We gain the condition tough, 1 intel, but also 1 injury. So Rocco gains his 2nd injury. That's 2 of the 4 that he has available to him, but he does gain the status tough. That large gaping wound doesn't hurt me at all. It now takes +2 injuries to put you down, so we have +2 to our wound capacity. That brings us up to 6, so that is great. And we're going to add an intel token to the intel pool, and that'll be our 3rd. And as a result of that encounter, Rocco is back in Siberia where he started the campaign. And now we draw our end of turn villain card, and it reads, children in Cape Town brainwashed into joining End Times cult. Remove intel in North America, add intel in Salvador and Cape Town. There was no intel in North America to remove, so we've placed 2 intel, one in Salvador in South America, and another intel in Africa in Cape Town. That brings our total intel on the board up to 5. So if another intel comes on, we are going to have an intel overload. All right, Callie is up next. She's currently in the Pacific Ocean, and she's attempting to get to Japan so she can undertake one of her secret missions and thereby get rid of that love interest status card, which is kind of going to inhibit her from being able to gain intel tokens. So we'll start with a roll with the travel die. And the roll is a 1. And that's going to take her to Beijing, and then she's going to use her modified car, which actually gives her a total of 3 movement points per turn. And she's going to go to Japan from there. So Callie reaches Beijing by the sea route, and then she's going to use her modified car, and that'll take her to Japan. And now while she's in Japan, she's going to begin with her secret mission. It says, move into Japan from either Beijing, the Pacific Ocean, or Macau. You must impress a Japanese businessman. This will be your encounter for this turn. Test Persuasion +2. If we pass, we can up any skill by 2. If we fail, we'll have to lower a skill by 1. Okay. Well, Callie has a persuasion of 2, so that would allow her to roll a total of up to 4 dice if we choose. We'll start out with our gray die that we get automatically, and then we're going to draw a die from the bag, and then we can keep drawing until we hit our dice limit. And so depending upon the type of dice, that will determine if we want to have extra dice drawn or not. The more dice, the more chance for wounds. And we've drawn a red die. That's a good one. And I think we'll draw 1 extra. And that's the brown die. So we're going to roll these and see if we can pass this. And we easily pass that. We have 2 successes. So that will complete that mission in Japan. But rather than taking the pass ability of that, we're going to get rid of one of our status cards that we don't want. And that's the love interest card. Now we move on to the villain phase, and we read an end of turn event. And it says, China arrests thousands of citizens accused of involvement in acts of terrorism. Remove intel in Asia, add intel in Dakar, and close Los Angeles. Well, Los Angeles is already closed, but unfortunately we're going to lose 2 intel in Asia, the one in Ceylon and the one in Macau. Those will be gone, and we'll be adding one to Dakar in French West Africa. So we have a total of 4 intel on the board, and we would not have an intel overload until we would be placing the 6, so we're in pretty good shape. Now we'll move on to Rocco Jurgen. He's in Siberia, so we're going to make a roll with the movement die. His roll's a 1, and that will allow him to move, and he'll move to Yekaterinburg. That's on the Trans-Siberian Railroad. And while in Yekaterinburg, he's going to undertake an encounter, and that's an Asian encounter. And that reads, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Number 23. The response group will be I. And response group I will try to pick a response that would be consistent with Jurgen's capabilities. He's very good in hand-to-hand combat, so I think we'll go with Go for Broke, and that would be number 4. And we draw our fate card, and that's going to be an encounter with no intel, so that'll be 1. So we're going to have an encounter of 23.4.1. And the encounter reads, Move to Indonesia. Days of beach and relaxation at the Shangri-La in Jakarta regrettably have come to an end. You have the files you need to prove that the Prime Minister of Malaysia is working with SMERSH. You hail a taxi to take you to a rendezvous with a contact. The driver smiles at you as a glass panel slides between you and him. The doors lock and gas fills the back. We have to test athletics +1 or spycraft +2 with 2 successes required. We can pass automatically with luck. Well, we're going to attempt the athletics ability. Jurgen has an athletics value of 1, and we'll get +1 from the test. So that'll allow us to draw 2 dice out of the bag. We'll have our gray die, and then we're going to draw 1 at a time, a dice from the bag. And that's a blue die, and I think we're going to draw an extra one as well. And he draws the brown die. Okay, we're going to give these a roll and see if we can pass this. And unfortunately, we failed the test. We're going to heal 1 point, which is good, but we would have failed this test. So let's see what we can do with Rocco. Rocco's going to spend 1 point of resolve, and that will allow us to re-roll all of the dice. And I think we'll take a chance with that, including the heal die. And that time, Rocco was successful. We'll read the pass condition. You pull your gun and fire at the window. The bullet ricochets around the back of the cab before lodging in the headrest, inches from your neck. In desperation, you throw your entire body full force against the glass panel. It gives a little, but your vision is fading. With one final heave, you burst through the glass and fall on top of the driver, who gets out and runs. 1 resolve. Well, that's great. We're going to recover 1 of our resolve. That'll move Rocco's resolve back up to 2, and that's great. So with Rocco in Indonesia, we're going to go to the villain phase, and we'll do our end of turn event. And that reads, UN buildings in Paris attacked by long-range missiles. Remove intel in Europe. Add intel in New Orleans. All right, so we're going to lose the intel that we had in Athens, and we're going to be placing an intel in New Orleans. Okay. All right, we're ready for another turn. Callie Dagger is in Japan, and Rocco Jurgen is in Indonesia. Now, we have yet to have any location intelligence yet. We acquire that by defeating the henchman. But in order to get a henchman location on the map, we have to find an intel token, and instead of placing that into the intel pool, we would convert that into a green henchman token. And then that would be randomly placed with a fate card, and then we would be able to travel to that location and confront a random henchman. All right, we'll begin with the movement for Callie Dagger in Japan. We'll start with a roll of the travel die. Her roll is a 1, and that would close an airport if she had one in her location. She doesn't. She's going to use her modified card, and that'll allow her 3 movement points. And Callie's going to use those 3 movement points to move to Macau, Kolkata, and into the Indian Ocean. And it just so happens that Callie's other secret mission is located in the Indian Ocean, so let's take a look at that. That reads, you meet with a deep undercover UN agent. At the end of the turn, you reveal this card, gain a top secret card, or a blue UN transport. All right. Well, we're going to undertake our Indian Ocean encounter, and then we're going to play that card at the end of the turn, and we're going to be able to gain those benefits. Now, as this is going to be an ocean encounter, we're going to roll a d6 and consult the ocean encounters table. Rolls a 1, and that is entitled Suspicious Travelers. We'll be using response group C. So using the intelligence that we have about suspicious travelers and combining that with Callie Dagger's abilities, we'll take a look at response group C and see if we can pick a response that would be to her benefit. And I think Callie's going to try something a little different. She's going to use number 6. Let's have some fun. And then we draw a fate card and we examine the number in the ocean area, and that's 4. So our encounter is going to be 46.6.4. And 46.6.4 reads, a contact from Government House hands you a file before you board. Briefly, you look inside. There's a black and white photostat of a man and a note reading, this man has been hired to kill you tonight in your cabin. You smile a tight smile. Maybe this crossing won't be so boring after all. So Callie's going to have to test deception -1, and she could pass with stealth. Well, she doesn't have stealth, so we're going to have to use our deception ability. And unfortunately, her deception is at 1. So that's only going to entitle us that gray die, which is a 1 in 6 chance of success. And I think we're going to need to use a resolve. So that's going to move our resolve down from 4 to 3. And it says add 1 to a single test. So that will allow us to gain an extra die, and we'll draw that from the bag, and hopefully we'll get a good one. And once again, it's the brown die, so we're going to roll these and see if we can pass this test. And amazingly, she passed the test. So we'll read the text for the pass condition. With a silencer attached to your gun, you wait behind your cabin door. After midnight, the door inches open and a gun appears, rapidly firing 6 shots into your bed. Man walks inside and closes the door. You tell him to drop his weapon. Upon questioning, he reveals he is working for a new organization competing for global domination. You put your gun down and light a cigarette. He lunges for his gun and attempts to fire. But his gun, as you were well aware, is empty. You raise your own weapon and 1 intel. And that's great. Our intel pool now moved from 3 up to 4 tokens. All right. And now we're able to complete our Indian Ocean secret mission. You meet with a deep undercover UN agent. At the end of the turn, you reveal this card. Gain a top secret card or a blue UN transport. I think we'll take the top secret card. And she gains diversion. Reroll any number of dice after you fail a test roll. You must keep the second roll. Discard after use. So it's a one-time use, but we could use that in a critical situation perhaps. All right. Incidentally, when using the secret mission cards, we're not allowed to redraw those. You only get 2 for the game, and that's it. When those are gone, they're gone. And we'll move on to the villain phase, and we're going to read the end of turn event. It says, Princess Anne to marry Dr. Lobo. Okay, remove intel from Africa. Add intel to Abache. Airport closes in Silung. Okay, well, there are 2 intel tokens in Africa, and we're going to remove those and place 1 in Abache. So the intel in Dakar and Cape Town is removed, and a new token is placed in Abache. And now it is Rocco Jurgen's turn. He is in Indonesia. We're going to make a roll on the movement die for him. Roll is a 2, but I think Jurgen is going to use one of his UN transport tokens, and then that'll allow him to move directly to a specific location. And he's going to move to New Orleans. There's intel there, and he also has a secret mission available there. So Jurgen is going to play one of his UN transport tokens, and that's going to take him to New Orleans. So Jurgen arrives in New Orleans with an intel token. We're going to convert that intel token into a green token, which will allow us access to one of the henchmen. So that intel token is going to be removed, and we're going to draw a fate card to determine where the green token that we're going to select is going to be placed, and that will give us the location of one of the henchmen. We won't know which one until we actually visit the location, but it will be a henchman. And the fate card tells us that one of Dr. Lobo's henchmen is in Silung, China. So we've placed a location token in Silung, and that will be the location of one of the 4 henchmen. Now back in New Orleans, Rocco will have an encounter, and this will be an encounter with intel. We draw a North American encounter card, and that's revealed to be undercover. The response group will be D. We'll bring that up on the screen. And considering Rocco's capabilities and the undercover aspects, I think we'll choose number 1, snoop around. And we draw a fate card, and this is going to be with intel, so that's number 4. So our encounter will be 41-1-4. The encounter reads, you have reliable information that a SMERSH conference was held at City Hall. Disguised as a cleaner, you go inside and pretend to dust, when actually you are dusting for fingerprints. Test Spycraft -1 or pass with detection. Well, Jurgen does not possess detection, so we're going to have to use Spycraft -1. Now his Spycraft is at 1, so that's only going to give us 1 die for right now. And I think this is important enough where we're going to use one of the resolves of Rocco Jurgen, moving him from 2 down to 1, and his ability gives us +2 to a single test. That's what we're going to do, so we're going to draw 2 dice. And we draw a brown die and a red die. We're going to roll those and see if we can get a success. And unfortunately, all 3 dice come up failures, so we're going to have to read the fail condition. And the fail condition reads, "You aren't supposed to be in here," says a front desk clerk. "You are ordered out before you can find any decent prints." Okay. And since we failed the mission, we have to read a villain advancement. And the card reads, "South Africa pays SMERSH 100 million upon threat of detonation of a dirty bomb." That's going to advance Dr. Lobo 2 spaces on his track. And now Jurgen's secret mission in New Orleans. An explosion on Bourbon Street disrupts a Mardi Gras parade. You are battling several SMERSH agents in masks, chasing them through the streets and taking them out one at a time. At the end of your turn, you reveal this card, put the Unknown Spy status card into play. And the Unknown Spy status card says, "The UN knows who this man is, but his identity remains highly confidential. Automatically pass a single failed encounter. Place the Unknown Spy near the board. Any player may call upon him for help. Discard after 1 use only. 1 Unknown Spy may be active at any time." All right, we'll place the card in the intel pool so that we can have that visible. Now it's the villain phase, and we'll do our end of turn event. Piracy increases as SMERSH outfits ships with advanced radar technology. Remove Intel, Europe. Add Intel, South Atlantic. Airport, close any city in Europe. There's no Intel in Europe, but we are commanded to close any airport in Europe, and I think we'll close Rome. And an Intel is placed in the South Atlantic. We're ready to begin a new round. We have 4 Intel in the Intel pool, and we have 1 location token in Silung, which will give us the location of one of the 4 henchmen of Dr. Lobo. Agent L39, Kelly Dagger, is in the Indian Ocean. We'll begin with a movement roll. And she rolls a 1. And Callie's going to end up using her modified car, which will give her up to 3 spaces of movement. I think Callie is going to move into Cairo, and then using her modified car, giving her 3 movement points, she'll move into Abache. And as she's in Abache, she's going to play a top secret card. The card is Rudiger. That allows her to flip up 2 Intel in the pool. And that's what we're going to do. That'll give us an idea of how we're doing on the type of Intel tokens that we have in the pool. So we're going to expose 2 tokens, and we'll see what kind they are. So we have a weapons token and a tech token. And if we examine Dr. Lobo's track, he's currently on level 4, we notice that one of them is a weapons token, one is a tech token, and the other is a double agent token. So far we appear to be doing pretty well on having the proper Intel tokens to defeat Dr. Lobo. And now Callie is going to have to deal with that intel token. I think we're going to place that into the intel pool. So that places our 5th token in the pool, and now she's going to encounter a Bache. We'll draw a Africa encounter card. The card reads, Spoiling for a Fight, and we'll be using response group I. And I think Callie is going to take a soft approach to this, and she's going to use number 5, Meditate. Our fate card is going to be with intel, and that's number 5, so we'll be examining encounter 18, 5, 5. 18.5.5 reads, You are posing as a mystical healer. General Abu Bakr is very superstitious and does not trust doctors. You sit in front of him, both of you cross-legged on the floor. And breathe, you say. Feel the tension leaking out of your body. Wait. Something is troubling you. You place your hand on his forehead. Yes, you are carrying a great weight. Only by sharing that weight can your body be free to heal itself. We must test persuasion -2 or deception requiring 2 successes. We can pass automatically with seduction. Well, Callie does not have seduction, so our choices will be either persuasion -2 or deception requiring 2 successes. Either way, it is going to be very difficult for us. In this case, it looks like deception might be our best bet. We'd be getting the 1 gray die, and we'd also be getting an extra die from deception, and it would require us to have 2 successes, unfortunately. But the other method would be to use persuasion, which would be a 0, and we would have to get a 1 in 6 from the single gray die. So that is a tough decision. And I think Callie is going to do the persuasion -2. And she is going to spend 1 of her resolve points, bringing her down to 2, and that's going to allow her an extra dice. So we'll have 2 dice to attempt to pass this test. So we have the gray die, and we've pulled a green from the bag, and we'll just have to hope that one of those will be a success for us. And we've rolled an injury and a heal, so both of those will cancel each other out, but unfortunately we would fail the mission at this point. Callie's going to use the top secret card, Diversion. Reroll any number of dice after you fail a test roll. You must keep the second roll. All right. And unfortunately, she's picked up an injury, and we've failed the test. That will be her 2nd injury point. It'll be 2 out of her possible 3. And the fail condition reads, You press the general to share details of SMERSH activities in the region, claiming that it will help him to cleanse his meridians. He may be superstitious, but he's not stupid. His guards drag you outside and give you a good beating. We'll either have to take 2 injuries or lose 1 resolve. Well, we have no choice in the matter. If we take 2 injuries, we're going to be over the limit. So I think we are going to lose the resolve, and that will leave us with 1 remaining. And as we failed that encounter, we have to read a villain advancement. It reads, Dr. Lobo's nomination for a Nobel Peace Prize infuriates Western nations. That's going to advance Dr. Lobo 2 spaces on the track. That'll move Dr. Lobo from 4 up to 6. If he gets to 9, we're going to have an automatic loss. And now it's the villain phase, and we'll do our end of turn event. It reads, Captured S.M.E.R.S.H agent discovered to possess robotic implants. We have to remove intel in Africa and add intel in La Paz and Krasnoyarsk. An airport will close in Nairobi. All right. There is no intel in Africa to remove, so we'll be placing a intel in La Paz and Krasnoyarsk. And the airport in Nairobi now is closed, which we have marked. We've placed intel in La Paz and in Krasnoyarsk. It gives us a total of 4 intel markers on the board. If we get to 6, that's going to be an overload, and all of those will be removed. However, 1 location token will always remain if that occurs, so our location in Silung is safe. We'll move on to Rocco Jurgen's turn, and Rocco is currently in New Orleans. And I think he's going to use his last remaining UN transport, and he's going to move to Silung. So he's going to spend his UN transport and move directly to Silung, but we do have to roll the movement die regardless. Roll is a 2, and it would also allow us an extra movement if we moved through an airport. New Orleans does not have an airport, so we are going to use our UN transport, and that's going to take us to Silung. And that's going to place Rocco in a location with one of the henchmen of Dr. Lobo. We're going to undertake our encounter phase. We'll reveal that location token to see who Rocco is going to encounter. He's going to encounter Darling. We'll read the dossier on Darling. It says, birth name, Tenshi Gunma. Darling is a pet project of Dr. Lobo, who took her in as an abandoned child and trained her extensively in the deadly arts. Darling adopted a keen interest in the use of poison. A simple scratch from her fingernail may prove fatal. Beautiful and deadly, Darling is the near-perfect assassin. So we will have to undertake the level 1 encounter with Darling. It says we have to test deception to trick Darling into letting her guard down. All right, if we pass, it will allow us to up any skill. If we fail, we'll have to lower persuasion. All right. Rocco Jurgen has a deception level of 1. And that'll allow him to roll the gray die. And the roll is a failure, but Rocco is going to employ the unknown spy. Automatically pass a single failed encounter. All right, so Rocco has passed that. He is going to be able to up any skill that he chooses. And he's going to select persuasion. That will move his persuasion up to 1 from 0. Darling will leave the board, and her level will increase to 2. And Rocco's successful encounter with Darling will get our location intelligence its first point. And we will move the marker to 1. We need to get to 4 to have any chance of confronting Dr. Lobo. We'll move on to the villain phase and our end of turn event. It reads, Prime Minister Vorster sends prisoners to work in S.M.E.R.S.H diamond mines. We have to remove intel from South America, and we will add intel in Montevideo and Warsaw, and the Mexico City airport will close. So we're going to lose 2 intel, 1 in La Paz and 1 in Salvador, and we'll be placing intel in Montevideo, along with intel in Warsaw. And the airport in Mexico City will close. Well, we certainly have our work cut out for us. Dr. Lobo is currently at level 6. Our local location intelligence is only at 1. We need to get that to 4, and we do have 5 intel tokens in the pool. We'll start with Kelly Dager on the new turn, and she's currently in a bache. We'll have her make a roll with the movement die. Her roll is a 2. She is going to employ her modified car to increase her movement to 3. And we're going to have her move from Abache through Cairo into Athens and then into Warsaw, where there is an intel token. And upon her arrival in Warsaw, she's going to convert that intel token into a location token. So So we'll draw a fate card and find out where the location token appears. And the location is quite close. It's in Madrid. So we are going to remove that intel token and place a location token in Madrid. And now we'll move on to the encounter phase, and Callie is going to have an encounter in Warsaw. It'll be a European encounter, and this is going to be with intel. The encounter is License to Kill. It'll be Response Group C. And with the choices we have from Response Group C, I think she's going to take number 2, Quick Action. And the fate card with intel will be 5, so our encounter will be 24.2.5. And the encounter reads, you are working to get inside the palace of a business partner of Pierre, whom you are instructed to take down cleanly. After learning that your objective is leaving town in a few hours, it is now or never. Smoking a cigarette and disguised with tattoos and long matted hair, you approach the front gate. Let me in. I need to see my father. We need to test persuasion. We need 2 successes, and we could pass with disguise. Callie does not have disguise, so we'll have to use her persuasion ability. Her persuasion is at 2. So we can roll up to a total of 3 dice. So we'll begin with the gray die, and she'll make her first draw from the bag. Callie pulled the red die, so that gives us a 50-50 chance of success without a chance of taking a injury. Now we have a 1 in 6 chance of taking an injury with the gray die, so I'm not going to pull any more dice, and we'll hopefully be able to get a success with this. Amazingly, we got 2 successes. That is great. And the pass condition reads, when the guard attempts to shoo you away, you get angry and tell him that your father is going to be furious. When he tells you that Monsieur Lever has no children, you spit at him and yell, no, he wishes he had no children. He treats me like scum. You reach behind the man and push a button to open the front gate. Before hopping back in your van and driving through, the guard does not pursue you, and we gain a UN transport. All right. And that extra UN transport will come in handy. That's 4 now for Callie. And she does have 2 injuries, though, so we're going to have to spend a turn to probably have her heal. And I think we'll probably do that the next turn. Now we'll move to the villain phase, and the end of turn event reads, airport security at all-time high. Remove intel from North America, add intel into Mumbai, and close the airport in Lagos. All right, there is no intel in North America, so we're going to simply add an intel to Mumbai, and then the airport in Lagos will close. All right, and Rocco is going to roll the movement die. He gets a good roll, and that's a movement of 3, and that will allow him to reach the intel token in Krasnoyarsk, and I think that's where he's going to head. So he reaches Krasnoyarsk, and I think he's going to place that intel token into the pool. And now Rocco will have an Asia encounter with intel. And the card reads a con job, number 43, and the response group will be B. And examining the responses that we have available to us, I think we're going to use number 3, rely on instinct. Fate card with intel will be number 1, so we're going to be encountering 43.3.1. And the encounter reads, terrorists have gained a foothold in the hinterlands outside the city. An unknown organization dusted the farmlands with a concoction called crop killer, and the farmers have been manipulated into selling their land cheap. You have been trying to influence the officials to intervene, but they are either too intimidated or they are in the deal. On a hunch, you decide to infiltrate the organization behind the crop dusting aircraft. We have to test spycraft +2, and we could pass with detection. Rocco does not have detection, so we will have to use his spycraft, and he has a +2 there. So his spycraft is 1, and he has gains a +2 from the modifier. So in theory, we could roll a total of 4 dice. First die is a blue one. I think we'll draw an extra one. And then a brown die. I think we'll take all that we're entitled to. And the final pick is a black die, so that's good. We'll make the roll. Amazingly, we've rolled 2 failures, a double injury, and a single injury. So I think we are going to have to use Rocco's ability and have him re-roll all dice. We're going to spend his last resolve point, and we're going to re-roll all the dice. And that time Rocco ended up with 3 successes, and so we'll read the pass effect. And the pass effect reads, your hunch pays off. A trail of clues leads you from the aircraft to a base of operations. You sneak in one night and gather incriminating evidence. We gain trusted agent. Okay, that's great. And now we'll move on to our villain phase, and we'll draw a villain card. Now our end of turn event, it reads, Australia's declaration of war against Africa still a mystery. Remove intel in Asia, add intel in Rio de Janeiro and Panama City, and close the airport in the current city. All right, so we're going to lose the intel in Mumbai, and then we're going to be placing intel in Rio and Panama City. And that means we have a total of 4 intel tokens on the board, including a location token in Madrid. And now we'll begin a new turn, and we'll start with Callie Dager, and she's going to do her movement phase. And her roll is a 2, and I think we're going to use this opportunity for her to rest. She can heal 2 injuries, and she basically passes on her turn. We still have to go to the villain phase, though. So she's healed now completely, and we'll go to the villain phase, and the end of turn event reads, 3 passenger planes disappear over Atlantic. Add intel in Athens and close the current city. So the airport in Warsaw is going to close, but we're going to add a 5th intel to Athens. So we have 5 intel on the board. If we have a 6th, then we're going to have an intel overload, and all of the intel markers will be removed. But 1 location token always remains, so the location token in Madrid would remain where it is. All right, we'll move on to Rocco Jurgen. He is in Krasnoyarsk, and he's going to roll the movement die. And he's rolled a 2, and if he was able to take a air transfer, he would be gaining 1+ movement point following the completion of the air flight. So he's going to use the Trans-Siberian Railroad to get to Moscow. That'll cost him 1 movement point. And I think he'll spend another point to move into Warsaw and meet up with Callie Dager. All right, so he arrives in Warsaw, and we're going to have a European encounter. And that says Mysterious Stranger 03, and the response group will be B. And I think Rocco is going to try rely on instinct again, so that's number 3. And the fate card is going to be with no intel, so that's 4. So we're going to have encounter 3.3.4. And the encounter reads, we've captured Fyodor Maximov, the director tells you over the phone. He's evaded us for years, but now we can finally close the book on his reign of terror. Something about this doesn't make sense, and you fly to Rome to meet with Fyodor in person. Move to Rome. Test deception -2 or spycraft needing 2 successes. We can pass with detection. Well, I think we're going to attempt using spycraft. That's going to require 2 successes. We have a 1 value for spycraft, so that would give us a total of 2 dice, and both of them would have to come up as a success. Otherwise, we would have to roll the deception is -2. Our deception is 1, so we would only get 1 die there, and that would be a 1 in 6 chance. Either way, with using the gray die is going to be one of those will be 1 in 6. So I guess we'll go with the deception roll and just hope that we can get a success. And no, the roll is a failure, so we have failed, and we'll read the fail condition. And the fail condition reads, "You are convinced that this man is Fedor, but he turns out to be a double. With the UN not looking for him, Fedor is able to avoid capture and cause all manner of trouble. Lose 2 intel from the pool." Oh, all right, well, we're going to lose 2 intel tokens, and we'll take the unrevealed tokens. That'll give us a total of 4 tokens in the pool now. Not good. And because we failed that, we're going to have to draw a villain advancement card. And the card reads, "Tens of thousands of delirious birds attack children in the UK playgrounds. Dr. Lobo's sonic device said to be at work." It's going to advance Dr. Lobo 1 space. And he's going to move from level 6 to level 7. Not good. And now we'll move on to our normal villain end of turn event. The card reads, "Peru's new president replaces entire cabinet with SMERSH appointees. Remove intel from South America." Okay, that's going to remove a total of 3 intel. And then we're supposed to add intel in New York and Agadas and close the airport in London. So now we have a total of 4 intel on the board and a location token in Madrid. And we'll begin a new round with Kelly Dagger. And she's going to use the movement die. And her roll is a 3, and that's going to allow her to reach Madrid and have a location encounter. She reaches Madrid, and that will be the hideout of one of the henchmen. And the henchman is revealed to be Mr. Big. Mr. Big is at level 1, and we have to test hand-to-hand to avoid getting put down by Mr. Big. Kelly's hand-to-hand ability is 1, so that will allow her to draw 1 die. And she draws the brown die, so we need to get 1 success here. And unfortunately, she has failed. The fail condition is lower athletics. So that's going to move her athletics from 1 to 0. She had no resolve left to allow her a reroll of any kind. So now we have to do a villain advancement. If the number is a 2 or greater, we're going to lose the game. And the villain advancement reads, "Dr. Lobo allowed on council to select next pope, nominates himself, and it will advance the track 2. So Dr. Lobo is going to move from level 7 to level 9, and we have automatically lost the game. And that's going to wrap up the game. Unfortunately, it resulted in a loss for us, but I have to say, from a narrative standpoint, the game is loads of fun. It's well written, and I like the interaction of the intel tokens being used for the intel pool or converting them into location tokens to deal with the henchmen. And it's a very, very fun game. Now, as I understand now, this has a new Epic edition that has been released. I don't know much about that. I did take a look at that, and it appears that there's much less locations on the new map as opposed to this version. So I'm going to have to take a closer look at that and see if that's something that I want to do to upgrade from this version to the new one. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough, and I hope to see you again in our next video at the Solo Gamers Club. Have a good evening.